Plaintiff Lisa Vaughn says the defendant is her stepdaughter, and she's been with her boyfriend, the co-defendant, for 5 years. Lisa claims her stepdaughter's boyfriend is mentally and physically abusive, and he refused to sign their daughter's birth certificate because he thought Lisa's stepdaughter was cheating. Lisa is suing them today for unpaid rent. Defendants Zomace Barr and his girlfriend Taylor Kaler say the plaintiff has raised Taylor since she was 3 years old. And although Taylor admits that Zomace can be mentally abusive, she insists he only laid his hands on her a couple of times. They're countersuing for personal property.
Start with you.
Yes, Taylor is my stepdaughter, and I've raised her since she was 3, and her and her boyfriend been together for about 5 years. And 2 years ago, she had to get a restraining order on him because he had held her down and choked her. He's always been really physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive towards her.
She's told you this?
No, I've seen it myself. So
How often do you see it?
It's quite often. It's like on a daily basis. He's always like that with her.
You see him every day?
He works most of the time.
Then how do you know every day?
Well, it's
You say you see
as
it.
when they're together. So
Okay, so it's not every day.
not every day, no.
How often are you with him?
I'm with Taylor most of the time.
You say you witness it. That's the only way you know. The only way you know, you
probably
say is you witness it.
3
How
times
often
a
are you
week.
with the two of them?
Probably at least 3 days a week.
All right, in those 3 days, he either mentally or physically abuses her?
Yes.
All right, let me hear from you, ma'am. You want to tell me about that? Does he mentally or physically abuse you 3 times a week for the last 5 years?
Probably not 3 times a week. He is kind of mentally abusive, but he's only technically laid his hands on me a couple times in the 5 years we've been together.
Sir, do you want to say anything today?
I joke around with her a lot. I wouldn't say I was mentally abusive. I don't you're ugly. I've never once said anything like that.
But I
never
mean,
said anything
if
like
someone
that.
says it multiple times a day for every day, you kind of eventually feel it.
I've never once called you ugly.
No, not ugly.
I've never once said, a bad thing about you.
No, but he jokes around a lot.
All right, and so the same joke all the time.
Yes,
You
yes.
interpret it as
Yes.
A real feeling.
Eventually,
That's
over
what
time.
she's saying, sir. All right. And what about your relationship with the plaintiff?
Well, she's my stepmom. She has practically raised me since I was 3 years old. She's done everything for me. She's paid my rent, my down payment to get into my new apartment. She pays my light bill when I need it, and she helps me out a lot.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
22.
How long have you all lived together?
For
For the past 3 years.
off and on for the past about 3 years.
Since you were 16?
Mm-hmm.
Was
Yeah.
it 16?
What is
No
it?
wonder you need money.
When do I need money?
I said, no wonder you need money.
Oh.
16-year-old living with someone? I'll leave it alone. Go ahead, but you have my point.
age
You all
hasn't got
sound
that.
like you were too young to try and share the same home or apartment, and that's why you have to lean on mom.
In September of 2015, they had a baby. And that baby girl, he refused to sign the birth certificate and everything on that because he wanted to make sure it was his child before he did.
Why was there a question?
He seemed to think she was cheating on him for some odd reason, so he wouldn't sign the birth affidavit at the hospital. So in October 2015, he had her arrested on domestic, which the county that it happened in didn't pick up the charges, of course.
What did he allege she did to him?
He alleged that she put her hands on him. So at that point, DCS was called in, and so was the Johnson County Sheriff's Department, and they took her to jail because she didn't want him going to jail, so she wouldn't fill out the form. Well, he did in order for her to get arrested, right?
I did say I didn't want
She
to
said, I'm not going to fill out the
So
form on you, honey,
once
but I'm
again-
not, because I don't want to get you arrested.
Right.
He said, well, I'm filling it out.
Right, exactly.
You
And
get
I
arrested.
honestly told her, she's young. I told her, Taylor, you need to so they understand what's going on. So needless to say, he wasn't on the birth certificate or anything. So They asked mom where the baby was supposed to go. You know, she said with me, of course.
When she was locked up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then once again, I had to pay another $300 to get her out that I didn't charge him for. I didn't even, you know, whatever. It is what it is.
Whatever happened with that?
They got back together. So then in December 2015, he went to the drugstore and bought an over-the-counter DNA test for the daughter they had. And then once that came back as positive for him, then he decided he wanted to put his name on the birth certificate.
That's false. I was on the birth certificate line.
All right. Let me get to them. Let them respond to that. First of all, ma'am, your mom says your husband beat her.
The only reason I did put my hands on him, and I did admit that, is because every time we got in a argument, he would try to leave with my daughter. And my first instinct would be to stop him.
Would you do that?
I said I was going to the park.
And it was
said,
raining,
hey,
it
Ailey,
was
let's go.
storming.
So just coincidentally, sir, whenever you all argue, you want to take your daughter to the park. It's time to go play. It's time to go get on the swing set.
Don't mind the lightning. Sense.
Don't mind the lightning, right, whenever it is.
Yeah, he does it quite often.
And in my defense, she was in a onesie and he was not grabbing the diaper bag or the car seat. He was just trying to walk out with her. So I tried this.
So how'd you fill it out, sir?
At the time, the police officer made it sound like I didn't have a choice. But I did put in the report that I didn't want to press charges. I just wanted to, you know, have someone intervene. That way nothing got any more serious.
Okay.
2 years ago, she had to get a restraining order on him because he had held her down and choked her. He's always been really physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive towards her.
Plaintiff Lisa Vaughn is suing her stepdaughter and her boyfriend. And she says her stepdaughter's boyfriend is so abusive that she had to file a restraining order on him after he choked her.
And what about the questioning of the birth certificate? She alleged that. Do you want to?
When we were in the
going to get
hospital,
to the rent shortly. Go
when
ahead.
we were in the hospital, by the time I came around to agreeing to signing it, it was too late. So it was probably about a month and a half, maybe 2 months after I went downtown and signed the birth certificate and everything was all good. Then I signed it before I even had
okay. She doesn't like you much, obviously.
No, she doesn't. No.
Why do you think that is?
Really, I think the only reason that we're here is because I'm with her. And
No, she hadn't liked
with
you
her.
for a while. Why is that?
But it didn't seem that way because we were
Now
all
you know.
fun and
Why do you
dandy.
think it was?
That's why. I mean, we split up and now we're getting back together, and it
He's
just
changed
there
and
it
done
is.
a lot of changing in the last year. They lived with me for a little bit last year before she got pregnant, and after she got pregnant, he just did a total turnaround.
I never even lived
he
with
was
you.
mean to her and always never. I mean,
did.
I
You
seen
did.
it for
I didn't.
myself.
All right.
And you know, and for the baby's point of view, you know, it's really hard on me. You know, when there's a baby involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in February of 2016, they had gotten into it again. She left. He wouldn't give her the car seat. Once again,
Over
she
the
had to
baby.
hold
You're
the
dealing
baby
with
to
the
my
baby.
house.
Why are you putting the baby in between this?
She ran out with my daughter without a car seat and drove to her house.
That's because, once again, he
But
was trying to withhold her.
I didn't withhold her. You're
Be
her
quiet,
mom.
sir. Sounds
Sorry.
like you are playing games with the baby. Go ahead.
2 days later, they got back together because Taylor, you know, wanted Ailey to be comfortable at her dad's. You know, she's trying to work things out for the baby. Well, in March or May, he had called me. She called me crying, begging me to pay her rent because he was refusing to pay the rent.
Why?
And
I hadn't lived there for
because
2
she
months.
would not
You
drop
what?
the.
I didn't live there for 2 months.
You didn't live there for 2 months, but your baby did?
Yeah, and I had paid the
So,
first month's rent.
got it, sir. I think everybody else gets it too.
Yeah, in
Go
March
ahead.
of 2016, she had to file a restraining order on him because of all the allegations and abuse that is going on, and the judge granted it that day. So come May, and he had told her he was going to continue paying the rent since they were both on the lease, and it's both the mortgages.
What
in
are you
both their
suing
names.
for? How does your rent money come
Because
in?
I actually end up having to pay her rent for that month because he refused to unless she signed her name off of the lease and off of the protective order. I called him and even asked him to pay me half of it, and he said no, unless she signs her name off of both, he's not paying nothing.
See, you have a problem if he never agreed to pay. Let me hear your side, sir.
Like you said, I never agreed to pay it. I
Don't
told
go
her.
over what I say. You say what you
Okay,
want to say.
I never
Come on, no,
agreed to
like
pay
I
rent.
said.
I never agreed to pay rent. But how it all happened was me and her were fighting on a regular basis, not physical fighting, but we were getting yelling matches in quite often. So I moved in with my dad. Then I get a text the next day from her saying there's a restraining order. So I can't even go back.
Your dad know you weren't paying rent for your baby?
Yes, he does.
So your defense today is you shouldn't pay for the rent that she paid on behalf of your baby because you never agreed to.
Yes, I never agreed to
You don't think you should? Morally?
I mean, morally, yes, I should take care of my daughter, but she could have always came with me a couple days a week, and I mean, I've been the only one with a job.
Yes, she didn't. She stayed with a roof over her head with her mother.
Yes, that is true.
Grandma's not there, then y'all move in the shelter. Whatever you got to do, I ain't got nothing to do with it. You don't want to let me come over there because of the restraining order? Then starve. Then go homeless. Then let the lights go off.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it would.
He's getting over on you and the baby, just so you know. Just so you know. All right? He mentally abuses you. He gets over on the baby. You have to get restraining orders on him. If that's the type of man you want, go right ahead. Your claim is dismissed. He still doesn't want to pay for the roof over his child's head at all. Your counterclaim for personal property is for what?
Because she had stolen my property when I wasn't.
All right, you don't agree to that, do you?
No.
You don't say no?
No.
Okay, she doesn't agree either. Both your claims dismissed.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with him. I just, want him to start doing what's right for Taylor and the baby. And he is always about himself, Everything's always about me, and it shouldn't be about me. It should be about all of them. So.
Well, I mean, that's not true. I've been the one to give her everything she has. I've paid for every bit of equipment, toys, clothes, diapers.
No,
food.
I had to buy diapers recently. So.
Recently? You didn't have to. I already had them.
I mean, I'm caught in the middle of it, and I love them both, but I will probably stay with him. So